Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It is October 24th, 2020. We are here at Knok Studio Central. It's not Knok Studio Central. It's my little office, but you're joining me live. We're going to go through all sorts of fun things this morning, your daily dose of entertainment, as well as pulling the heartstrings. No, we're actually not going to do that. You didn't sign up for this. What we are going to be talking about today is a little bit about what I, Bo Shevasu, hence the bow tie, sort of do for a living. We are also going to be having a guest appearance from Hayden Wilkins. I'm sure you guys know him. And today, we are also going to be going through some Storybrand concepts, fascinating storytelling, story crafting. As a matter of fact, if I were to try to share my screen real quickly right there. Oh, can you see that? Can you see that right there? I don't know if you can. Did it share? Is it still sharing? I don't know if it's still sharing. I'm trying restream.io right now as a means of I don't know. Well, let's try to spotlight that one right there. But anyway, it's not about trying to figure out technology. It's about sharing a little bit about what Knok Studio does. And I'd love to hear your questions, comments, insults, free pizza coupons, and things of that nature. All right, so what we are going to be doing, first of all, is Knok Studio. And I'd like to share Knok Studio in a way that I recently learned. It's called Storybrand, and it's really quite fascinating. So Storybrand is this concept. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I can try to share a screen right here. I'm not doing Zoom because my little hipster self doesn't like to share, do Zoom necessarily. And that's bizarre. It won't actually share my screen. Maybe it's a Macintosh thing. Oh, well, that's okay. Okay, so what you need to know about Storybrand is this concept of storytelling. And I'm sure everybody can relate to this if you have watched The Hobbit, Star Wars, Harry Potter, which Liz and I are actually going through the Harry Potter series right now. And boy, they are just so cool. Harry Potter really has a lot of wholesome values in it. It really does, all about like trust and telling the truth, the power of love, like that being the most powerful force ever, is this idea of sacrificial agape love. So it does actually have some Christian undertones to it, despite what some people might say about Harry Potter. So Storybrand, the conceptual is very quite simple. I'm just going to walk you through the roadmap very briefly here. First, we start with a character of some kind. It could be Frodo, it could be Bilbo, it could be Luke Skywalker. Usually this character is kind of the underdog. I have found that we really tend to resonate with the underdog. The Peter Parkers of the world, right? More people are more apt to like a Peter Parker than a Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? That they're kind of that underdog type character. But that character experiences a problem of some kind. So let's say Aunt Beru and Owen, Lars, they were killed by stormtroopers. That's a great problem right there. It kind of thrusts them into the story. And then after the problem, this is really interesting. I've never really noticed this before until Storybrand, this idea of telling a story. They come across a guide of some kind. And this guide understands their fear. They have the ability to empathize or sympathize with them, probably more sympathize. And this guide gives them the tools, the resources, the roadmap sometimes. This could be the Gandalf. He's like, all right, you're going to have to go through Mirkwood in order to get to it wasn't Mount Doom, it was Smog. Mount Doom is the Lord of the Rings, right? And eventually they will get there. Once they give them the plan, then they give them kind of a call to action. They, being the mentor, gives them a call to action. It's like, are you going to go with us to Alderaan, or are you going to stay here on Tatooine? And in every single story that really resonates with us human squishy creatures, we get this idea of a call to action. So there's a decision point. And then that ultimately results in either comedy or tragedy. And so, for my fellow theater majors out there, if you guys remember, those classic plays from Greek time, it's either a comedy or a tragedy. Basically, is it a happy ending or is it a sad downer type ending? Is it all pretentious? If so, it's probably going to get an Academy Award. Oh, did I say that? Oh, so that's Storybrand. It kind of follows along the line, and if you're a fellow Christian like myself, you probably realize, wow, this idea of this story arc really follows the Christ story, right? Sort of kind of an underdog, that this guy who came from, in was it Nathaniel who said, Nazareth, what good can come from Nazareth? What's going on here? He kind of lived in this little podunk town. Jesus did. And so it kind of, you want to root for him, right? And he follows this where he experiences a problem, which is sin, or also the Pharisees. He also might meet a guide. So I would say God the Father is Jesus's guide. He's kind of doing the will of his Father, and he gives him that roadmap. And ultimately, we go through the unbalance, the quest, the climax, the new balance, going down and resolution. So I think personally, this idea of storytelling. Wow, I'm getting a little flippy here. That idea of storytelling, I think, resonates with our DNA. Because it is the Christ story. And I think that's why biblically God designs the narrative of salvation to follow this story arc. I don't think God is up there going, hey, if we could smash the Jesus Christ story into this eventual narrative of the Matrix with Neo and Trinity and Morpheus, which is the exact same storyline. And I don't think he was doing that. I think it's more vice versa, where we ourselves resonate with that storyline of Jesus. And we're like, whoa, I think we can craft our own story and narrative. So Knok Studio, where this comes in, is what is our narrative? How can we smash telling our story of our ministry of Knok Studio into Storybrand? So Knok Studio is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and you can tell people about your brand by saying something like that. Well, we're a bunch of Christian filmmakers and we produce film for other Christians. That doesn't really resonate with a lot of people. It tells you what we do, doesn't really tell you why we do it, gives a little bit about how we do it. But really, if I were to try to communicate Knok Studio through Storybrand, I would say, first of all, there is the hero, the character, and that would be those who send us, our donors, those who pledge on Patreon, many people who are watching right now. Those people meet the mentor, who is kind of the expert, so to speak, who has the solution to the problem, and Knok Studio would be that mentor. And then by Knok Studio then is able to equip the hero with this tool, like, hey, we have the ability to go out and solve this problem. And what is the problem? The problem is isolation. We are fighting those who are in a little box, like a mime. They're in a box out there, and no one knows what they're doing. Specifically, they being missionaries and ministries out in the middle of nowhere who otherwise cannot communicate what they're doing. So are you following the story arc? Where now we've identified the problem. Now, what's the solution to that? Well, the mentor comes in and says, hey, here's a tool that gives the hero, you guys, the ability to free them from isolation. And if you don't, then their ministry could crumble and there are ramifications and, horrible things happen. And we're all sad when a missionary has to pack up and go home. So Knok Studio comes in, we go out there with a camera, we capture what they do and we broadcast it out to the world, ultimately getting them more support, more exposure, so they get more volunteers, more funding, and ultimately they have more impact. So it's this chain reaction that goes down the line. And it works. We've been doing this since 2011. We've got a lot of accountability being a nonprofit organization. So the IRS is always breathing down the back of our neck, wagging their finger at us, making sure that we are in fact complying. So we got to be very careful with that. So that is how I would tell the story of Knok Studio through Storybrand. Now we do have a few buckets. Knok Studio, we do create film for other nonprofits. But some people may be like, well, so it's every nonprofit? Well, we really try to emphasize those kingdom building nonprofits. So ministries and missionaries out there. So one bucket is we are hired to go out and produce film. So they actively pay us. What we do charge is like 30% of what conventional studios charge. So it's very, very, very reasonably priced. But then the other bucket that Knok Studio does is we go out on our own accord and we actually pay for the production value. So one, we're hired very, very cheaply to go out. And then the other bucket is you guys actually send us. Again, the hero in the story. You guys send us and we take funds that are contributed on patreon.com. As a matter of fact, I thought I had this right there. Hey, look at that. Can you guys see that? I'm trying Restream.io for the first time here by sending this broadcast out. But yeah, so on patreon.com, those funds right there, that they send us out, and those are called Megaphone on Mission projects. Those specifically are those missionaries who otherwise couldn't afford to hire us like an organization might be able to do in the first bucket. They might be able to contribute, I don't know, maybe $900 towards a short film, which is very, very, very cheap, by the way. Did you know average cost, or actually not average cost is astronomical, but for a Hollywood short film documentary, $500,000 is considered really, really cheap. So it's a very, very expensive industry. So we come along and we're like, hey, we don't charge a lot. We're very efficient with what we do. And then this other bucket over here where we allocate funds from our wonderful donors, and then we go out into the world and produce film for missionaries and ministries. So those are our two buckets. You understand our two buckets? Of course you understand our buckets. Now, I have a fun little idea here. I think that we should get someone on the horn right here. That's what my grandparents used to say. Get them on the horn. The old-fashioned term right there. And I'm going to call one Hayden Wilkins. I don't know if he's available on the road right now, but let's see if we can patch him in, because I'm going to ask him, I'm going to drill him some questions right here about what he has been doing and what he has done. Let's say, for example, in Tanzania. Did you know they pronounce it Tanzania, not Tanzania? It's true. I won't look down on you if you say Tanzania. After all, you don't say Deutschland, you say Germany, or you don't say Mexico, you say Mexico. So no judgment if you call it Tanzania. Here we go. Call Hayden Wilkins. Let's see if we can get him on the phone, guys. It's working. Great. We're going to put it on speakerphone. Hopefully he doesn't say anything bad.
Hey, Bo.
Oh, hey, Hayden Wilkins. You're live in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people right now, so don't say anything bad.
Well, that's fantastic. Great news.
It's hard to ruffle his feathers, ladies and gentlemen. Well, hey, I hear you're actually on the road right now. Where are you going?
We are. We're heading to Kansas City. I've got a film project and another wedding for some friends this weekend.
Interesting. You know what? That brings up a really interesting point about how Knok Studio operates. So you're actually filming a wedding right now, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to.
Interesting. Well. Now, wait a second. I thought you're with Knok Studio and you produce film for nonprofits and missionaries and stuff. What in the world are you doing? Doing a heathenistic project like filming a wedding?
Well, I'll tell you a few things. One, the 4 shells that I define my life by are glorify God with videography in a way that directly impacts the kingdom of God and provides for my family. And so the moment that we acquire enough funding for the Megaphone on Mission bucket for me to do that full time, I will absolutely be there impacting the kingdom of God as best as I can. But until then, God has blessed me with 5-9 Films, my own little film studio, in which I am able to also work to fill some of those gaps with weddings, real estate, videography, product stuff, whatever different videos you can think of. I've done just about everything under the sun with either Knok Studio or 5-9 Films.
Interesting. But now you mentioned just your first thing right there. Did you say that you have 4 kind of steps that kind of not really dictate your life, but guidelines, so to speak?
Yeah, there are 4 kind of shells is what I like to call them, that I would love to be, maybe even on my gravestone someday if I'm buried, not cremated. But glorify God with videography in a way that directly impacts the kingdom of God and provides for my family. So those are 4 shells that very early on I felt like God brought up in my mind that I wanted to kind of run decisions and kind of the major course of what I put my time into through those shells.
Fascinating. Okay. So, for me personally, ladies and gentlemen, if you're curious, I do some, for example, real estate photography, some weddings, as well as Hayden, who's going off to a wedding right here to either participate in or film. I think you're filming, you said, right?
Right.
Cool. And that's pretty cool because that's kind of the tent maker side of things, to use a Christianese term, where it helps hone our craft. We are able to still buy groceries through that, but we're very careful to only allocate Knok Studio funding towards actual Knok Studio projects. So it's not like we're taking some of these donor funds and being like, hey, let's go create a commercial for Crest toothpaste. Nothing like that. So, question for you, Hayden. You have been to Tanzania, is that correct?
I have, yes, sir. Tanzania.
Tanzania. See, guys, he corrected me. Right. Fantastic. Okay, so who did you go with? Which bucket did you do? Were you hired to go there, or did you use donor funds to be sent there to produce film for missionaries? So which bucket did you use?
Yeah, so one thing that we like to do at Knok Studio is be as effective and efficient as possible. And so I was hired by the Lutheran Bible translators in Concordia, Missouri, to go produce a couple of films for them in Tanzania. And then because we were already going and to be in that country, I mentioned our Megaphone on Mission projects and funding that we have. Since we're already going to be in country, we might as well make a few videos for some of their missionaries there, just to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And so that's one way that we try to do things. We always try to locate missionaries in country if there's an organization that's taking us somewhere already.
Fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I like that, to be as efficient as possible. So let's say, for example, an organization or missions agency hires us to go out into the world, and we show up in country for 10 days and we only focus on producing 1 5-minute short film for them. That's probably not the most economical use of our time. And so to fulfill what our donors do to send us, let's say, for example, we've racked up $1,000. What would you do to create a Megaphone on Mission project? So not just the organization's project, but you mentioned in Tanzania, did you film for any missionaries out in the middle of nowhere or something? What did you do for Megaphone on Mission?
Yeah, so kind of the logistical process of that is, once an organization wants to send us somewhere, just mentioning, hey, we have this bucket, and so if we're able to locate some missionaries in country, we would love to do that. We think this is valuable to them, but we only want to produce videos for them if they think it's going to be valuable for themselves. And so communication starts, and that organization helps us locate some of those missionaries. And so there were 2 missionaries in Tanzania, and then actually the same organization sent me to Sierra Leone a little bit later, and we located 4 missionaries in Sierra Leone that could use these videos to send out the message of what they're doing and just give a really good visual of what life is like for churches back home and supporters back home, as well as often these videos are used to request additional support as people are fundraising and different things of that nature.
Fascinating. Now I experienced something similar going to Sierra Leone. One wonderful ministry and organization, they're called the Bridge of Hope. I went there to produce some films for them, get some amazing drone photography of their compound that they were building there. And one such family who was not connected to the Bridge of Hope, but they were there and they had an amazing effect on the Ebola outbreak. the Kane family. And I produced a film for them in the same way that Hayden here is talking about producing a film for Megaphone on Mission. And the only thing I charged them, Kane family, if you're watching this, you know that I charged you one meal. And it was the greatest meal ever. And I produced a film for them. And they used this film to hopefully save thousands of dollars on airfare costs because they got to send this video back to churches who were supporting them and thus continuing their impact. And at the same time, I turned around and produced a film for, actually multiple films for the Bridge of Hope. So yes, so Hayden Wilkins, I don't want to keep you too long here, but I am going to ask some cultural questions here, if you don't mind. Do you drive stick shift at all?
Not yet. That's one skill I definitely would love to have. So if someone's watching this and they've got a stick shift in Kansas, let me know. I need to learn.
Awesome. And you probably know why I asked you that question, right?
I think so. I do.
Yeah. Because, ladies and gentlemen, most of the world operates in stick shift, and so if you're like us driving around the mountains of Guatemala, you're going to have a stick shift, and you're going to have a great time, or you're going to have a bad time if you're given a foreign vehicle like I was, and I burned out the clutch. Yeah. Okay. Other questions here. Let's set Hayden up for success, because we don't want to poke fun at his stick shift abilities here. Because in fairness, we drive automatic vehicles here in the United States. So when we get into country, we sometimes are picked up by a local organization. Sometimes we rent vehicles. Now, Hayden, what was your experience driving along the countryside of Slovakia actually, we flew into Hungary first, right?
We did. We flew into Budapest and then drove over into Slovakia, former Czechoslovakia. And that is actually a different situation in which Knok Studio flew there just to provide these Megaphone on Mission projects. So we located enough missionaries in a certain area to justify the travel cost of going there without kind of going on the tailcoats of another organization already flying us to a location to produce films for them.
Oh, and that was such an epic trip. By the way, guys, this isn't a grand scheme that we're trying to create a nonprofit just to justify us going to epic places. Now, next year, we're going to go serve the poor, suffering people in off the coast of the Bahamas. Now, if God sends us to the Bahamas, I'd gladly go. But yes, in this example that Hayden is giving in Slovakia, there were some missionaries there. They were doing incredible work, but they were so focused on their work that they didn't stop to think, how can we broadcast and communicate what we're doing to get other people excited, to get more other missionaries out into the mission field, or even more support for themselves. So Hayden really spearheaded a lot of this trip to Hungary and Slovakia, and it was completely paid for and funded by you, our donors, right there at patreon.com/Knok. And it was so neat to be able to gift these people with this ability to tell the world what they were doing and to kind of boost them up. Be like, hey, we're behind you. You're not going to become the least of these, and we're just going to ignore you as you're out here in the middle of nowhere. So Hayden, before I let you go, lastly, I'm going to throw you a curveball question here. Let's talk about food, because we here in the United States are very food-centric, and we love our variety. Does a certain dish come to mind that you didn't maybe necessarily find the most palatable, if that's the word, overseas or out on a Knok Studio project? Anything in particular come to mind that you have eaten?
Well, I will say that just about every country you go to, you'll get chicken on the bone and rice. That's just about every country you'll go to, especially the videos that have missionaries that we're producing videos for. And I just don't really like chicken on the bone, so that's unfortunate. But Katie and I went to Japan, so this is another example of a project that was funded completely by Megaphone on Mission, and we produced a full-length documentary that actually got accepted into a film festival. So I just want to be really, really grateful for having the funding to do that, and seriously incredibly low budget documentary to be able to film and actually travel to Kansas and Portland and Japan and do all of that for less than 10 grand. That's not going to happen a lot of places. So I want to say thank you for that to our supporters. But I had the best, I don't know what it was. We were on the beach. There was this little restaurant, and I had this bowl of rice with some chicken on it. And whatever they did to that chicken was not chicken on the bone. So I appreciated that.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you're still able to experience a little fun and a little culture as you're out there with a camera in hand, being the champion for God's kingdom builders. And I appreciate all you're doing. So I'm going to let you go right there. I imagine you're 5 minutes till the wedding, so you got to run. And I'll catch you later, dude.
Thank you very much, Bo. See ya.
All right. And we're going to hang that up right there. Isn't that fascinating? A lot of countries out there have chicken and rice. That is just their go-to. And I can yeah, my uncle, I believe it was, he was a Green Beret in Vietnam. And to this day, he does not eat rice. At least I think so. Gary, are you listening right now? Do you eat rice? Yeah, so I still eat rice, but it got to the point when we were on Mercy ships. If any of my Mercy ship friends are listening right now, do you remember how much rice we ate? It was pretty much every other day. And oh man, 5 months on board that ship, which some of my shipmates were on there for many, many years and still actually are on there. And every other day, have rice. And all the locals who helped on Mercy ships, who we were training up, they would celebrate, be like, it's rice day. And then all of us Westerners would be like, it's rice day. Oh, and now most people really like rice, but in moderation, my friends. But you know what? We're not there on vacation. That's not the point of why Knok Studio goes to these places. So we really tried, we can laugh about it, but honestly, we're not entitled. We show up, we eat it. One other thing that I had was in Cambodia with some very good friends, Q Missions. Aaron, if you're listening to this, actually, I was just editing some footage and I saw Marcus Cola eating a spider. It was cooked, don't worry, but a very large spider in Cambodia at a very nice restaurant. So you walked in and this place was like, wow, this is really boutique-y. And there's Aaron and he's like, spiders for everybody. I got this round. It's like, why did you bring us here, Aaron? And he got spiders for everybody. And I had a spider leg. It was kind of hairy. It kind of caught in your throat. It tasted like a hairy Cheeto. So it was very well seasoned, like a Cheeto, very delicious. But yeah, I found that economically, it depends on, you know, that line where there's pets, there's food, and then there's pests, you know, like pests and rodents that you want to eradicate. The line of demarcation that separates that, what's a pet, what's food, and what is a pest, those lines move a lot when you go to some countries, especially when a country has gone through like a war, like really horrible wars, like Cambodia has. They're just like, hey, that's moving. We're gonna cook it up and make it taste absolutely delicious, but that is not a pest. That has nutrition in it, and I actually kind of appreciate that resourcefulness. So after this, maybe I'll go try to find a spider somewhere, and I don't know how I'm going to season it like they do. Oh, and the pho there was amazing. Oh boy, you guys, wow, I should be huge, but I'm not huge because usually when you go to these places, you kind of get an involuntary detox because my stomach is not used to these things. All right, so that's Knok Studio. That's a little bit of fun little things about some cultural nuances. You heard about our buckets with Knok Studio. You heard our Storybrand concept. Please share this video. I know it's kind of weird to be like, oh, please share and subscribe. I hate when people say that, but I am just doing this broadcast to hopefully bless you guys, give you a little bit of entertainment this beautiful Saturday morning, or if you're on the East Coast, Saturday afternoon. And lastly, how I want to leave you guys is, how has COVID-19 impacted Knok Studio? You thought you'd get away from COVID-19. You haven't. No, but this is actually really, really fascinating. So initially I thought that, well, during a time of, economic downturn or something like that, you would probably think that the artists of the world would be the first to get cut, right? The first to get eaten, so to speak. On the contrary, we've actually been very, very, very busy, but busy in a different capacity. Normally, we would be cross-cultural, in the Philippines right now, filming for missionaries over there. But of course, the Philippines are shut down. Well, I did send something to Dawn. Dawn, if you're listening, I think we can go to Liberia because they're technically open. All right, I think we can do that. But anyway, back to this. We've been very, very busy around here. We're actually going to be going next month to Indianapolis to film for a mission conference. A whole bunch of missionaries there, and they go all over the world. And they're actually coming to Indianapolis. So we're going to film them, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So basically, domestically here in the United States, we've been very, very, very busy, which is a huge blessing, and I appreciate that tremendously. So thank you guys for sending us. Thank you for being a part of patreon.com/Knok. Over on there, you can basically pledge, whether it's $5, $20, or $100, whatever, and you can cancel at any time. It's not like we're holding your toes to the fire like in The Hobbit. That's what the trolls said. They're like, oh, we will sit on them like jelly, and then we will roast them over the fire. We will not put you over the fire if, in fact, you ever want to cancel your support, but we appreciate that tremendously, sending us all over the world. And we take those funds and we exclusively allocate them to serving other ministries and missionaries out there. So thank you guys so much. This means the world. God bless you guys. That's Knok Studio. I appreciate you guys sharing this video. And yeah, look for a fundraiser of some kind, because, man, I can't wait to go out and get you guys to be the champion for God's kingdom builders. Let's go.